I am Anil Kumar. Welcome to my series on factoring trinomials. All those who want to take up IB or AP level of courses in high school, for them, this series on factoring trinomials will be very beneficial. In this particular video, we'll discuss how do we group factor the trinomial of the form ax square plus bx plus c, where a is greater than 1. We are going to find two magic numbers which can help us factor using product and sum method, and then we'll split the center term, and then finally factor the trinomial. Let us master this with 9 examples just before you. Let me also thank all the viewers and subscribers who are watching my videos, posting excellent comments, and are also supporting us. Every dollar you support with helps us to reach millions worldwide. As you know, for last 15 years we have been serving you absolutely free with 17,000 videos, and these are watched over 80 countries. Your support can help. Now, let's also look into some examples which we have done in past. You'll find hundreds of solved examples on factoring with 4 different techniques. So, these are some practice questions with their answers. You can always copy the trinomials and practice after this video. Let's now begin with the solution of the very first. So we'll talk about concept before getting into details of solving. I hope that will help our new viewers. We need to factor 12x squared minus 2x minus 4. As you can see, all even numbers you can always factor out 2, which we call a group factoring. So first thing you should notice, can you group factor or not? Very few questions will be there where group factoring will be involved. Here you have it, right? So you just factor out 2, and then I prefer to use square brackets when you do group factor, dividing each number, the coefficients, by 2. So you get 6x squared minus x minus 2 in the square bracket. So the trinomial in the square bracket now is to be factored further. And for that, we're going to use our strategy of product and sum first. We need to find two numbers m and n so that their product and sum can match some way or the other, right? So let's see what is the product. Product, when we talk about, is the product of the leading coefficient and the constant term, which in this case is 12 and minus 4. But we factored, and therefore we'll only consider between the product of 6 and minus 2. Do you see that? So this factoring helps bringing the numbers smaller. 6 times minus 2 is minus 12, correct? So now we are looking for two numbers m and n whose sum is the middle term, which is minus 1. You see that? So we are looking for two numbers whose product m times n is minus 12 and whose sum m plus n is minus 1, which is the coefficient of the center term, which is x in this case. Coefficient of x is minus 1. So as you can see, what are the two numbers? Well, minus number will be greater. We'll always take m as a bigger number. Minus, one has to be negative, one has to be positive, since the product is negative, right? And then smaller number will be positive. 4 and 3 minus 4 plus 3 is the right combination. Good. So we can use minus 4 and 3. So what we now do is we split the center term, and that is where the splitting comes, right? So first you group factor and then you split. split the middle term, right? So we'll split the middle term and then rewrite the expression as 6x squared, the first term, but the middle term will be written as minus 4x plus 3x. See, minus 4x plus 3x is minus x, correct? Makes sense. And then we have minus 2 there, correct. At this stage, we have split the center term so that we have now four terms. And now you can group two of each, right? First two and the last two. And then again factor. So once you do this factoring, what do you get? We get this as 2 outside. 6x squared minus 4x, you see 2x is common. And you're left with x minus 2 plus 3x minus 2, sorry. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So you're left with 3x minus 2. In 3x minus 2, 1 is common. There is no need to write 1 here. We'll write 3x minus 2 in the bracket. And now you can see that 3x minus 2 is common. And we get 2x plus 1 as the other factor. So we have factored the trinomial. Perfect. Makes sense, right? So that is how we are going to use this strategy. So you can now clearly see how we have done. And let's now move forward with the rest 8 questions. We have 9 in all. So this time we have 4x squared plus 14x plus 6. I'd like you to pause the video, answer the question. Those of you who want to learn directly from me, send an email on globalmathinstitute@gmail.com. Now, as you can observe, we have some common factors here also, right? So we have 4x squared plus 14x plus 6. Again, 2 is common. So we can take 2 outside. We're left with 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. Now what is the product? Well, the product is 2 times 3, which is 6, and the sum is 7. And everything is positive in this case. So how do you get sum of 7? Well, 6 times 1, right? 6 times 1. So m is 6 for you, n is 1. You get the idea. So we can split the center term, which is 7x, into 2, which is 6x plus x. And that makes it 7x. Makes sense, right? And now we can common factor from the first two terms. 2x is common. So we are left with x plus 3. We already have x plus 3 as the other two terms. X plus 3, right? So now you can take x plus 3 as a common factor and you're left with 2x plus 1. Makes sense, right? You can drop the square brackets. Last time I did not use the square brackets in the last statement, right? But you may or may not use it. And the important thing is keep on writing equal to sign, right? That also helps sometimes that the expression is equal to the previous expression. So I hope now the steps are coming together, right? So you know factoring as such, but we have added a component which is group factoring and then splitting. Well, you can watch other videos in this playlist where we are discussing the Australian method and many other methods, 4 in all, to factor trinomials. Here is the next question for you. So we have 3x cubed, right? So first copy the question and then factor it. 3x cubed minus 3x squared minus 60x. Clearly, 3 is common, right? So you're left with even x is common. So not only the numbers, the variables could also be common. So 3x is common. Makes sense? So we're left with x squared minus x. And here we are left with minus. Dividing by 3 gives me 20. Now here we have leading coefficient of 1 and the product should be minus 20. Sum should be minus 1. Bigger number is negative. Smaller number is positive. And the numbers are 5 times 4. So minus 5 times plus 4 makes sense, right? So we are left with x squared. We'll write this as minus 5x plus 4x minus 20, right? So 3x. In the first two terms, x is common. We're left with x minus 5. And now 4 is common. We again get x minus 5. It is a must that these things should be common. Otherwise, you cannot factor further. So if you don't get this common at this stage, it means some mistake has happened or the trinomial cannot be factored further. Does it make sense to you? Right. Okay, great. So, equal to sign, I'm just placing them all. It's a good practice, right? So, let me write this once again. X minus 5 is common factor. We're left with x plus 4, correct? Now you can drop the square brackets. Square brackets was for better communication, right? Now, you may or may not use it. Perfect. So we have factored it finally. So I hope by now you have learned the method completely. No doubts, right? Feel free to write a comment, share your views, and continue with this video. Solve these questions yourself. 16x squared plus 17x plus 90. How will you do it? Well, let's copy the question first. 16x squared plus 76x plus 90. Okay. Now, what is common? Can you divide it by 2? Yes, you can, but not by 4 because 90 cannot be divided by 4, right? Uh, how about there's no other number, but so 2 you could divide with, right? So we write this as 8x squared plus half of this. So 2 times 3, 38, right? Plus 45. Now, in this case, we land up with very big numbers. We are looking for a product which is 8 times 45 positive and 38 as the sum. So, what could be these numbers? So, when you land up in such situation and you have to work it out without calculator, I think the best way is not really to multiply, but to figure out what numbers to work with. So split 8 into its factors, which is 2 times 2 times 2, and 45 is 9 times 5, right? So you can say 3 times 3 times 5, correct? So what I've done here is split into prime factors. And now we know when we multiply them, we will get the required product. However, we are looking for two numbers. If you add them, then you get 38. So we want a sum of 38. So what is that combination which is going to give us sum of 38, right? So we see that 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 2 is 18. Do you see this? And 5 times 4 is 20. That will give us a sum of 38. You see that? So now we can split it into those two magic numbers, which are clearly for us 20 and 18. Do you see that? So we will split this as 20x plus 18x. Do you see how we got this combination? It was very easy since we split it into its prime factors, and now the small numbers to work with is easier than a very big number to work with. Right, so let me rewrite all of the terms, right? So 8x squared bracket 2 outside. Do you see how beautifully we did it? It's a very good example, and the tip for you is that prime factorization helps, right? Now, in the first two terms, you see 4x is common, right? So you're left with 2x plus 5. And here, you see 9 is common. And so you're left with 2x plus 5. So you can write down 2x plus 5 as a common factor. You're left with 4x plus 9. And final answer. So this is a very good test question. I hope it makes sense. Feel free to write a comment, share your views. In case you want to learn from me, you can always send an email on globalmathinstitute@gmail.com. Our students are right there on the top. We can be part of your success story. Very important. Great. So we are always, midway here already. Let's look forward for more difficult, challenging questions. 6x squared minus 90x plus 324, slightly bigger numbers for you to work. At this stage, once again, I'll request you to pause the video and then look into, do yourself the solution and then look into my solution. Is that clear? Okay. So this question seems to be very difficult. We have numbers with 6x squared minus 90x, right? And then we have plus 324. What could be a common factor? Well, 6 can be a common factor, right? So let's take the common factor 6 and we are left with x squared dividing 90 by 6. What do you get? You get 15, right? 15x. And this number 6 times 5 is 30 and 4. So we get x squared minus 15x plus 54. Now in this case, we're looking for a product of 54 and sum of minus 15. What could be these numbers, right? So 6 and 9, right? So 54 you can split into two numbers, both negative, right? So minus 9 and minus 6, correct? So when you add them, you get minus 15. When you multiply them, you get 54. Clear? So we're going to split this into minus 9x and minus 6x, right? And keep the other terms as such. So we have now x squared minus 9x minus 6x plus 54. Just to make you clear that we're looking into group with splitting strategies and then following the 4 steps to factor the trinomial, correct? So now we can rewrite by group factoring between x squared and minus 9x, x is common. We're left with x minus 9. And here 6 is common. We're left with x minus 9. Let's put minus 6 common, right? And minus and plus will make it minus, and so we have x minus 9 as a common factor with x minus 6 as the other factor. So I dropped the square brackets and wrote the answer directly. Perfect. So that is how you are going to do it. I hope it is making sense to you. So I hope the concept is absolutely clear. Let's move on and take up the next question. It is again with big numbers, and we have x cubed this time, correct? Can you please pause the video and answer this question and then look into my suggestions? In case you want to learn from me, feel free to send an email on globalmathinstitute@gmail.com. Now, first thing is, we see that 2x cubed, 21x squared minus 36x. What is common here? Well, factor out x, correct? X is common. So let's do that part. It's a cubic equation. So once we take out x, what do we get? We get a quadratic equation inside the square brackets, correct? Okay. So we get this quadratic equation. Now here, what is the sum and what is the product? Well, the product is negative 72, right? Which is minus 36 times 2. And the sum is plus 21. Does make sense to you? That means we're looking for two numbers. One of them is positive, the other one is negative. Positive number is bigger. How do we get these numbers? That is the next challenge for us. Let's look into this. So the prime factorization technique which we learned should help, right? So 36 could be written as 6 times 6, right? But 6 can be further factored as 3 times 2 times 3 times 2, right? So now we have smaller numbers to work with. We need a combination in which we get 21. One of the number which is bigger is positive. The smaller number is negative. How can we get that? Well, if you look carefully, what we could do is we could take one number as negative 3 and the other as the combination of these, right? So we get 2 times 3, 6, 12, 24. 24 minus 3 is indeed 21 positive, right? So we'll split this into 2, which is plus 24x and minus 3x. Does make sense to you? Do you see the technique, right? And now we copied the other terms as such. Very, very important step. Now this is where, this factoring, prime factorization all comes together. Perfect. Now we'll group factor. Next step, correct? So 2x squared, 2x is common. We left with x plus 12. And here minus 3 is common. We are again left with x plus 12. X plus 12 is common, right? So I'm dropping the square brackets, writing x plus 12 directly, and we get 2x minus 3. Does make sense to you? That is how we are going to factor. Very good example. I hope you have understood it, right? So another 3 questions to go. 4x cubed plus 6x squared plus 2x is the next one. Copy it first. 4x cubed plus 6x squared plus 2x. So what is common? Well, 2x is common. So we get 2x squared plus 3x plus 1, right? Because we took 2x common. We're looking for a product which is number 2 times 1, which is 2, and the sum is plus 3, right? So the two numbers are plus 2 and plus 1, clear. So we could now write within the square brackets 2x squared plus 2x plus x for 3x, correct? Now group factor the first two terms where 2x is common, you get x plus 1. The other two, x plus 1, put them in brackets. And now write down x plus 1 as a common factor, left with 2x plus 1 to finish it off. Is that clear to you? Next example, 8x squared, let's copy the question as such, which is 8x squared minus 34x plus 36, all are even numbers. So 2 is common, right? Not 4, because 34 cannot be divided by 4. So 2 is common, we are left with 4x squared minus 17x plus 18, right? So we are looking for a big product this time once again, which is 4 times 18, both positive, right? And the number is 17 negative. That means m and n both should be negative, right? And we need a sum of minus 17. How do you get this? So once again, we'll fall back upon prime factorization technique. 4 can be written as 2 times 2. 18 is 9 times 2. So 2 times 3 times 3. Correct? Makes sense. You need the sum of two numbers to be minus 17. One is even, the other one is odd. Correct? That also helps to figure out. Perfect. So what could be these two numbers? Both negative, right? So we could have 8 and 9. That can work, right? Because we figure out that one has to be odd, the other one has to be even, right? So that works. And we'll split this into minus 8 and minus 9. So this time I wrote minus 8x first. Well, 2x is common between 4x squared and 8x. We are left with, 4x is common. Okay, 4x is common, so we get x minus 2. Here, minus 9 is common, we get x minus 2. And clearly, we have x minus 2 as a common factor, left with 4x minus 9. Makes sense? So that is how we have done this. And here we have learned another beautiful technique, and that is, if you're looking for an odd number as an addition, that means the numbers are even plus odd, right? And that helped us to quickly get the two magic numbers m and n, right? Everything counts in a test paper. In case you want to learn from me, feel free to send an email on globalmathinstitute@gmail.com. We can be part of your success story. Here is the last question. Perfect. Take it as a test problem. I'd like you to pause the video, answer this, right? So we're given the question 8x cubed plus 2x squared minus 15x. X is common, correct? So we're left with 8x squared plus 2x minus 15. The product is minus, because 15 times 8, let me write minus 15 times 8, and the sum is just 2. So number which is right in between, very close, right? So let's look into possible numbers. Minus 15 times 8. 8 could be written as 3 2's, right? And 15 is 5 times 3. Correct. Now, what two numbers? One positive, one negative. Positive is bigger, negative is small. Correct. But the difference is only of 2. Okay. So we could combine 3 times 4 as 12 and 5 times 2 as 10. Makes sense, right? So we'll write this as 8x squared plus 12x minus 10x minus 15. Makes sense, right? So now, what is common between 8x squared and 12x? 4x is common, right? 4x x plus 3, and here we could take 5 common. So 2x plus 3, right? So because I could see 2x plus 3 here, that means I missed something, right? So that can happen. So you have to be very careful. So you can take 2x plus 3 as a common factor, and you get 4x minus 5 as the other one, and now you get your answer, x times 2x plus 3 times 4x minus 5. Makes sense? So that is how we are going to do it. So I hope the concept is absolutely clear. In case you want to support your own channel, we are actually solving your questions almost daily, and I hope it is making sense. Feel free to send your donations. Every dollar count by email globalmathinstitute@gmail.com. So we are at the end of this particular video. I hope you have understood all these questions. My request is try some more on your own, right? That will definitely help. Thanks for your time and all the best.